Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast. With your hosts, Ashley and Michael, please sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast presented by the Undroppables and sponsored by Analyst Depot. I am one of your hosts, Ashley. This is my co-host, Michael Duncan. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. I'm excited for Thanksgiving, only for the football. I hate all of the food.
Me too. I'm a really picky eater. Not many will know that. So Thanksgiving is literally my least favorite holiday ever.
When I was younger, my mom would make me chicken nuggets.
That's like one of the few things I do eat.
It's one of my favorite Thanksgiving foods until my cousins and uncles bullied my mom into not making me chicken nuggets anymore, and I was forced to eat turkey because they made fun of me and her so much.
Yeah, I eat chicken nuggets pretty much every night, and I would do that on Christmas, and everyone tried to bully my mom out of it, and then I just like wouldn't eat, and everyone was like, fine, she can eat chicken nuggets. So that's what we did on Christmas too.
My mom cared a lot more about getting bullied by her older brothers than she did me eating, which is fair, because if she cared that much about me eating, like it would have been a much longer childhood. So, but I think that's all everyone wants to hear about my or your eating habits. But happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and thank you for tuning in tonight. I lost Ashley momentarily. I don't know if she lost me. So this is off to a fantastic start.
Hello.
There you are. But do you want to start us off by talking about some...
It's always
Still can't
something.
hear me? Still can't hear me? Okay. Well, I'm going to start us off on the injury report then. Hoping that everyone can hear me and not Ashley. Otherwise, this is very awkward. But we are going to start with the quarterbacks. Mike White was added to the COVID list, quarterback of the New York Jets, as was Joe Flacco as a close contact, which basically cements the fact that Zach Wilson will be back in the starting quarterback position this week. I don't know if that's good or that's bad if you're a Jets fan, but it is what it is. Another Thanksgiving piece of news. Hey, can you hear me?
Back, except it's still a little choppy. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can, but it's choppy.
Perfect. Fantastic.
What?
I was just walking us through the quarterbacks. Next up was Justin Fields, who was ruled out for tomorrow's game on Thanksgiving. He had a rib injury that he sustained in the second half of last week's game. So Dalton finished the game last week. Andy Dalton, QB1, and he will be the QB1 this week on Thanksgiving. You want to keep us going?
Yeah. Nagy's finally getting what he wanted. Andy Dalton is our starter.
And then he's going to be fired.
Yeah.
We all hope.
We'll talk about that. But yes, we just finished Justin Fields. Aaron Rodgers came out on the Pat McAfee show today. We knew he had been having a little bit of issue with his foot, toe. We didn't really know, but he told Pat McAfee this morning that he does have a broken toe, but he will battle through because he is Aaron Rodgers, I guess. Battle through that broken toe. Yeah, that I really didn't need to see that. Like all the things I needed to see today, that was not the one I needed.
Either.
Kyler Murray did not play again this week. I think we're expecting him to come back next week. You and I talked last week about how the Rams losing in week 10 was probably a little bit had to do with Kyler Murray being able to take the week off. So I'm not looking too much into it. I think they're protecting their star player for a deep playoff run that they're expected to make.
Yep, because they're still in first. They still have the best record in the NFL, and they have a bye week this week. So that's one extra week for both him and DeAndre Hopkins to recover.
Exactly. Why are you going to throw them out there right before the bye to risk getting hurt when you're still in first place in the entire NFL? Not worth it. But we will jump into wide receivers. Jarvis Landry left the game early with a knee injury. I haven't seen too much of an update about that. I don't think it's too serious. And a serious one, though, is A.J. Brown suffered a rib injury during the game against the Texans this week. Early scans, which were his x-rays, came back clear, so he doesn't have broken ribs, but he will have an MRI. It was supposed to be Monday, the reports I read, and I don't have the results listed anywhere yet. So I'm taking that as a good sign. He's listed as questionable this week against the Patriots, and they're still out Julio Jones. So I think it's really, if they can get him out there, I think they're going to.
Yeah, it's a tough sledding for the Titans right now. I mean, between Derrick Henry, Julio Jones, and AJ Brown, their offense really doesn't have much left.
No, they're star players. I think I love Tannehill. Tannehill's really good, but I think the star players were kind of keeping Tannehill afloat a little bit this year. And without that, I'm a little bit worried for what Tannehill is going to look like. Anyway, though, on to one of the best receiving cores is just got one off IR. Michael Gallup came off of IR, but CeeDee Lamb got a concussion in the game this week against the Chiefs. He tried to catch a ball in the back of in the end zone, and he ended up falling, hitting the back of his head against the ground. He didn't return to the game, and he's questionable on the week. It is a short week for them because they play on Thanksgiving tomorrow, Thursday. And our final wide receiver is Jamal Agnew from the Jaguars, who dislocated his right hip while he was being tackled. It was like kind of a tackle on the sideline. He will have season-ending surgery that will be a pretty long recovery. Like I saw some reports that said maybe he won't even be back for week 1 next year.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, he was having a bit of a breakout season. He was a special teams ace early in the season, and then when they lost, well, they've been losing position players left and right, it feels like. But he really was able to take a decent chunk of that offense. So it's a shame.
Yeah. We'll move on to the running backs. One pretty serious injury was Michael Carter. He had a low-grade high ankle sprain in the game against the Dolphins this week. Robert Saleh says he'll miss, quote, a couple of weeks. It's looking like it's going to be 2 to 3 weeks. There's not a definitive timeline, but again, with an ankle sprain, that's really not something to rush.
And I do believe they put him on IR, so he will be out at least.
So it would be 3. Okay.
So
I didn't see that, so there we go.
I believe that just happened.
Okay. I know, I was like doing our show sheet, and as I'm doing our show sheet, I have like 900 Twitter notifications of things that were happening. So wild. Jerick McKinnon from the Chiefs suffered a hamstring injury. He was set to have an MRI on Monday, and the results haven't been posted, at least that I saw. Jordan Howard from Philly had a knee strain. Sirianni says that he'll miss this week, but could be back next week. He did use the word could, not should. One of the ones that came out while we were doing it is Alvin Kamara. Kamara was ruled out for tomorrow's game against the Bills. This will be his 3rd missed week in a row, which is yikes.
Yeah, not to mention Mark Ingram has been in and out of practice all week, so they might be out. They might be out both of their top runners, but we'll see.
Yep. If you're looking for someone to add in your fantasy football this late into the season and he's still there, because I'm pretty sure he's not rostered. He's available in 87% of leagues, is Tony Jones. That's somebody to look into. Ezekiel Elliott suffered an ankle injury at the beginning of the game against the Chiefs on Sunday. He did come back into the game, so it's not expected to be too serious. It might just be like a really, really low grade strain.
Yeah, it does sound like it is going to bother him though, but he just is going to play through it. So I do expect him to be a little bit limited or hobbled.
Yeah, especially in that running back room that has so much talent that if he takes less snaps, it's not going to hurt the team. Sometimes it even helps the team. So it's not something that they're going to have to workhorse him and be afraid if he doesn't play a few snaps, because you have Pollard behind him.
Yep.
For tight ends, Eric Ebron, I'll give you the exact quote so I don't misspeak here. Jeremy Fowler this morning said Eric Ebron is, quote, expected to miss extended time as he braces for a potential knee surgery. Ebron, who got hurt week 11, is waiting on a second opinion, but a procedure is likely the approach as of now. He did miss a few weeks with a different injury, I'm pretty sure, and then he hurt his knee now, and now that's expected to be the one that's going to end his season.
Yeah, and this next one's a real shame. I'm going to say it because it makes me personally very sad, but that's Adam Troutman. He left the game early against the Eagles. He has a grade 2 MCL strain, and he's going to miss at least 4 weeks, possibly 6. They might not get him back till the playoffs if they make the playoffs. And that's really a shame because he was just starting to break out. He finally did like truly kind of show out against the Eagles before leaving the game. It's a real shame. He's a great talent, and it just sucks that something like that has to happen.
I know. He was starting to actually like command targets and be really good. Like he was putting up decent fantasy numbers. He was making a difference on the field. So it is pretty upsetting to see him gone for that many weeks, but I'm hoping it's only those 4 weeks and not more than that. If it's just the 4 weeks, then hopefully he'll be okay.
Yeah.
I want to see more Troutman. For defensive special teams and O-line, Landon Young from the Saints, he's a left tackle, is having season-ending surgery on his foot. Quentin Nelson from the Colts suffered an ankle injury, and the cornerback Darius Slay from Philadelphia suffered a concussion. But the best part of the injury segment is our good news. Zach Wilson is set to return this week, which is the Jets. Well, I don't even want to say it's a saving grace because Zach Wilson hasn't looked great, but without him, they literally wouldn't have a quarterback this week. I think they'd have to like pull one of the receivers in the quarterback. But he is set to return and make his start, and then they're pulling up someone from practice squad to back him up. Logan Thomas has returned to practice this week from Washington, the tight end. So he's set to be coming back. I haven't seen if it's expected to be this week or not, but he did start practicing.
Yeah, I mean, that hamstring was taking him a while to get healed up. It wasn't really expected to be this long initially. So I think they're probably going to be very cautious with him, especially in what is basically a throwaway season for him at this point.
Exactly. Jared Goff, the quarterback from the Lions, is, quote, trending up, and Dan Campbell says he is trending towards playing. Good, I guess. And Scotty Miller, the wide receiver from the Bucs, was activated off IR, another guy who spent a decent amount of time on IR, and will help to just make the best receiving core in the league even better. Wonderful.
They've been struggling a little bit lately, so it'll be nice
to
have reinforcements.
They have. I know, and they haven't had Antonio Brown there, so even though they are the best receiving core in the league, I really don't think there's much of there's a little bit of a discussion, but having the depth has been their issue currently. So having Scotty Miller back is going to be a really good thing for them.
Yeah, and on to some more non-injury related good news. The New York Giants have officially fired or relieved of duty offensive coordinator Jason Garrett. The move that everyone thought they should do after like week 3 of last year has finally happened. What are your thoughts? How is that going to affect the offense going forward?
My thoughts is yay. I literally wanted to throw a party yesterday. I wasn't living in New York, so I couldn't throw a party, but I am thrilled. It is so long overdue. I think last year was the right time to do it, and then like January was the right time to do it, and then right before the bye week was the right time to do it, but we did it after the bye week. I'd love to know what was the thought process that made like the Bucs game be the be all end all. But I think it's kind of just this really fed up. I think Joe Judge is trying to save his own job. I think Gettleman's gone anyway, but Gettleman and Mara are trying to save their jobs and save face for them. He's an easy fall guy, which is not to say he shouldn't be fired. He should, right? Like he's a fall guy, but he should be fired. It's not just a mindless firing to try and get everyone's mind off of something. The Giants didn't score 30 points in all 26 games of Garrett's tenure with the Giants. So that's an interesting fun fact. He didn't get our first round draft pick involved. He didn't get our multi-million-dollar receiver and deep ball contested catch king, Kenny Golladay, involved. He didn't play up to Daniel Jones' strength. We know he was the full offensive play caller, so the weight kind of really does fall on him. I'm excited to see him go. Freddie Kitchens will be the play caller for now. I don't expect him to stay the play caller. I think he'll stay the play caller throughout the rest of the season, but I don't think he'll be on next year as play caller. I know there's been a couple candidates from college, a couple candidates from around the league. I'm just excited that there was 2 things that were my first reaction, and I still stand by them. And the first one was I'm really excited to get to be able to hopefully evaluate the talent on this team more, because I know this team is talented, and unfortunately with the offensive scheme we were running, you couldn't evaluate that talent. And the other thing was, even if it is something saving face, they did something, right? Like, they didn't just sweep it under the rug and pretend everything was okay. They did something. And that's a really big first step for an organization like the Giants that doesn't like to admit their own mistakes. And I heard someone else say, it's going to have to be a real self-reflection for this Giants team to go anywhere in the near future. So I think this is kind of the start of that self-reflection. And I'm just really excited to see Freddie Kitchens call plays. I liked the way he called. I didn't love it. I liked the way he called plays when he stepped in for a couple of weeks last year. So I'm excited to see it. And I'm looking forward to hopefully this offense stepping up a bit. That was long-winded, but I'm excited.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't blame you for being excited because Jason Garrett is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And
The
speaking
one
of
thing
terrible,
that brought the NFC East together.
yes, exactly. That's not the one thing. I also hate Joe Judge and the Cowboys.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But another bad coach news report came out on state today stating that tomorrow, Thursday, Thanksgiving, would be the last game that Nagy coaches for the Bears. He was asked in a press conference. Shout out to that reporter for having the balls to say that. But he denied it. And it's interesting to note that the Bears, in I think their 102-year history, have never fired a coach before the end of the season. So I don't know if I believe this rumor. I think I want to believe this rumor for the sake of Justin Fields and Darnell Mooney and Allen Robinson. But I'm not totally buying it because the Bears do seem like an organization that will let Nagy finish out the season, if just because that's what they've always done before. And honestly, I have a hard time believing that the ownership thinks that a coaching change could save their season. So we'll see about that. But hopefully Thursday will be the last time we see him coaching the Bears.
Yep, I think their season is unsavable. Like, no matter how many games you win at the end of the season, you're not going to make the playoffs. So why not just keep on the train to kind of save face as like this good organization that lets their coaches ride it out and that kind of thing. He is the worst coach in the NFL though. So if anyone's going to be fired, it's going to be him. And for the sake of all of the talent on that team, I hope it's tomorrow, but I think it'll be at the end of the season.
Yeah. Some quick little tidbits. The Texans cut Phillip Lindsey, who was an offseason signing at running back for them. He got cut and he was claimed by the Dolphins today at 4 p.m. Could impact your fantasy rosters with Myles Gaskin. It seems like they are just very hesitant to give him the full workload earlier in the season when they had all of their backs healthy. But we'll see how much he plays into their offensive plans, going forward. The Titans cut Adrian Peterson, who only spent, I think, like 2 weeks on the roster. He didn't look great. He looked old. It was unfortunate. Not necessarily. I don't know if you can blame him. I mean, the Titans offense has been a mess since Derrick Henry got injured. And they also chose to sign veteran wide receiver Golden Tate to their practice squad with the expectation that he'll be called up. This is, I think, very much because of A.J. Brown. And I think it's mainly just because they need veteran wide receivers. If A.J. Brown and Julio Jones can't go, Marcus Johnson got injured last week as well. They're down to not a lot of players. And at least we know Golden Tate is a great route runner and he understands how to play football. So and
he also understands how to cry on Instagram when he doesn't get targets. So I can't wait to see that happen again.
Yeah. I mean, he was on the Eagles for like a week and then we got a comp pick for him because you guys signed him. Thank you. But he did win us a playoff game against the Bears. So I can't really hate on him too much. It is what it is. But speaking of the Eagles, the next thing would be Dallas Goddard signing a 4-year, $57 million extension. The tight end for the Eagles, that is, after longtime Eagles tight end Zach Ertz was traded earlier this season.
Yeah, that's a 4-year, $57 million extension, a little over $10 million signing bonus, and a little over $35 million guaranteed. I'm curious to hear what you think about it. You've kind of been keeping those thoughts close to your chest, so I want to hear.
Yeah, I don't know if I've been keeping them close to my chest so much as just
from me.
I mean, I kind of just forgot to tell you my thoughts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're paying him right now in total value. He's making the third most amount in the NFL at tight end, behind only George Kittle and Travis Kelce, in both average per year and total value.
Yeah.
That is a bit of projection, which the Eagles front office really does like to do. They've done it with a lot of their talented draft picks in the past. Not that there's been many lately, but guys like Josh Sweat, obviously earlier this offseason, Avonte Maddox just signed one. And there was a couple a few years ago they signed bigger deals than they had probably earned, but it was projecting forward. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
They're paying Dallas Goddard like a top 3 tight end. And if that's what they really think that he is, then it's probably a really good deal because they have decent control over the money in that contract for a decent amount of time. And he's a young guy and hasn't truly had the opportunity to break out until, the latter half of the season due to Zach Ertz. That being said, it's also a pretty smart deal from their end because the one thing that really surprised me was obviously, the total value is third most. But when you look at the guaranteed, there's only 14 million guaranteed. Now that ends up ranking right outside of the top like 8-ish. I think it lands him around 8 in terms of total guaranteed. It puts him behind Mark Andrews, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Austin Hooper, and right around Zach Ertz in the last year of his deal with Arizona and, formerly us. Oh, and behind Kyle Pitts as well, but that's a rookie contract. It's different. So that's really interesting. I mean, it's barely above Tyler Higbee and Jack Doyle in their guaranteed contracts. So I think basically what that tells me is they're paying Dallas Goddard and they have the opportunity to get him at a discount in the latter half of the contract. But if in the first 2 years or so, it doesn't really seem as if he's living up to the contract, it's not going to be too hard for the Eagles to get themselves out of it. Technically, the contract ends in 2027 in his age 32 year, but 2027 and 2026 are void years, which is basically just to expand the bonus of a contract over more years. It spreads out the cap hit. It's boring. We can talk about it in the offseason. You can ask me on Twitter if you actually have questions about it. It's interesting. The Eagles were one of the first teams to kind of start utilizing that in contracts. But in 2024 is the first year his base salary really skyrockets up. And that's also when a lot of the guarantees start going away, really. So, I mean, he's going to be 29 in that year. They have him cost control for the next couple of years as a top tight end. And I think a large part of that's going to be, Jalen Hurts' development, whether or not he's the quarterback of the future. Because obviously if they develop chemistry and Dallas Goddard is who they thought he was, then awesome. And you've got your tight end lined up. You've got Devonta Smith on a rookie contract still, Jalen Hurts, hopefully proving he's the guy. But if it doesn't work out, I mean, they're set up in a way that they're going to be able to kind of press the reset button in a few years anyway, because of the fact that they're still trying to figure out Jalen Hurts. They have a lot of draft picks in the next few years, and obviously they've got some really good players on rookie deals as well. So when I first saw it, it felt like a lot because it was very... it was projecting forward. But the more that I read into it, the more okay with it I am. And I'm more than anything, I'm just hopeful that he ends up being that player because I like Dallas Goddard. I do think he is insanely talented, and I look forward to him actually having the opportunity to show that.
Yeah. And I think, well, first of all, I definitely said the wrong number for guaranteed. I think I read guaranteed to date instead of guaranteed for this contract. So just void that at the beginning of this segment. But I think the Eagles front office has been really good about protecting their future, right? Not investing it all, like putting all the chips on the table and then hoping that it works out. They've been really good at keeping their money smart and using their money smart. And I think it's going to benefit them in the long run. Even if a contract doesn't work out here or there, I do appreciate the way their front office is running that because you can tell that they're giving enough room for growth in the future if that player is to be with them in the future, and also giving enough room to abandon and move on. You know what I mean?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And I think one thing I said pre-show while you and I were hanging out was that I really do appreciate how the NFL is using guarantees more. And we'll talk about that a little bit. We have another contract we're going to talk about quickly, but I really appreciate it, especially because in a sport like this where there's so much variance year to year, where literally nothing is guaranteed, that the guaranteed money is the only thing that's guaranteed. So on a day-to-day basis, these players could
I want to quote
go
that
and
hang it up on my wall. Only the guaranteed
we
money
should.
is the money that's guaranteed.
No, I said the only guarantee is the guaranteed money. There's
Not
like no other guarantee. There's no guarantee here that
It's
you'll
not
be here
too
tomorrow.
much better. I mean, it's
What I'm
literally
saying
in
is,
it's literally in the name.
okay, but that doesn't tell you that nothing else is guaranteed. There's no guarantee
You're
that
right. Ashley tells you that nothing
Goddard
else is
doesn't get
guaranteed.
hurt. Yeah, but my point is, there's no guarantee that you stay healthy your entire contract. There's no guarantee that you stay on a team the entire time. So having a fallback that it's like that you have almost like a severance pay, God forbid something happens, is I think really smart, especially with players that are putting their bodies on the line day in and day out with like 2 off days a week. But I think it's really smart, and I appreciate it from like a player perspective.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it ever actually catches up to some other sports like basketball or
Yeah.
baseball, where basically everything is guaranteed.
Yeah.
Not just the guarantees, everyth's guaranteed. So
Everything.
except the stuff that's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
But speaking of guaranteed
You
and
get it.
big contracts, Taysom Hill also got another new contract, which I swear he just got one like last week. But he got another one. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think they were something like ranging anywhere from 40 to 90 million.
Yes. Yep, between 40 and 95 million.
Even better. He's like 32 years old, isn't he? It's
I don't know.
I am convinced officially that this has to be some type of money laundering scheme or
Yes.
something like there
Wait,
was
I need to read the tweet I sent you. The one I sent you. Hold on, let me pull it up. The one that says Taysom Hill is like an NFT where no one really understands what it is, but it just keeps making more money and has a lot of value to a very specific group of people. Sean Payton.
Yeah, I mean, and that 1 week when he was tight end eligible, fantasy players.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
it. A very specific group. But yeah, so the contract basically, it is entirely dependent on the position that he plays. We don't really have the details of how that is determined. You know, is it by game? Is it by snap percentage? Is it by season? We have no clue. There's really no precedent for a contract like this. I mean, whatever. I don't get it, especially because it seems like they don't want him to play quarterback. And then that was the most confusing thing to me, is they've had every opportunity to let him play quarterback this season after signing him to a pretty decent deal a year ago.
Yeah.
And they're just not. And now they signed him to a deal. It's very confusing. I don't get it, but whatever. I don't get NFTs, and I have way too much money. I just spent a bunch of money on an Allen Iverson, NBA Top Shot. So now I'm a complete set Sixers owner. So that matters. I don't know what any of them are. Just like Taysom Hill, I guess. So that hits home.
Yeah. This is the first contract of its kind, like this kind of flexible sliding scale thing contract. I do have a quote here from Sports Illustrated that says he'll earn 40 million in base salary, but he can the exact quote is earn an additional 55 million if he transitions to the team's starting signal caller role and fulfills that need for the team over the next 4 seasons.
Okay. So it's basically, it's just hitting, different. So a lot of contracts do that. They've just never done it based on position. Which is, it'll be fun. I can't wait to see like the people that keep track of it and like really just like zone in on how much he's making every week by playing whatever.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I love the ones right now with what is it, Carson Wentz and the Eagles, that if he plays a certain amount of snap if he's a certain amount of his snaps, the Eagles get an extra first round draft pick. So like you have somebody on Twitter that has
the first.
Yeah. Yep. Then there's somebody on Twitter that like keeps track of after every game how many snaps he played in that game and snap game total. Like, so those people are always my favorite.
So I will say, because we are an insane fan base, it is way more than just one person. I know of at least like 3 or 4 articles that are updated weekly. The one that I always read, shout out to Jimmy Kemsky, is one of my favorite Eagles beat writers. He's also just very good at his job. But yes, he has a counter going for both Carson Wentz, Joe Flacco, and Gardner Minshew, because they
Mhm.
are all tied to
Yeah.
different what is the
Like
word?
elevate their draft picks on
Yeah, I want to say
Snapshare.
compensatory, but it's not compensatory. It's the other word that has to do with draft
Are
picks.
you sure? That kind of
No,
sounds right.
compensatory is in the off season when you lose a free agent, you're given it by the NFL.
So I don't
It's
know.
fine. I can't think of the word.
Okay.
But do we want to move on to the main bit of our
Yeah.
show now that we have talked way too much about Taysom Hill?
And the main bit of our show being Thanksgiving.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah. So which one are we starting with again? I forget what you said.
Yeah, let's start with so we're gonna do two quick little fun things that we think are fun, and hopefully you guys do too. But let's start with Thanksgiving football memories. Basically, just you know, Thanksgiving is such a specific day when it comes to football. It's unlike most others, and maybe other than the Super Bowl, where it's just one day a year. It's very easy to have very specific memories of a specific day and a specific football play or game or whatever. So I was just curious if there were any in particular that like stuck out to you growing up that you always think about when you sit down to watch football on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, my family is huge sports people. That's why I love sports the way I do. So Thanksgiving we only take a few moments for Thanksgiving, and then the rest of the day is dedicated to football, which is a lot of fun that we get to be together. And we always like pack on the couch, like fit way more people than you're supposed to. And for me, the one game that really sticks out is the 2012 game between the Patriots and the Jets. The Patriots absolutely blew out the Jets. It was 49-19. But for me, that game is the butt fumble. And I can vividly like remember everybody screaming and like yelling at each other, saying it was this, saying it was that, and like having absolutely no idea what was going on. So I think that one is probably one of my favorite memories because of how like chaotic the moment was.
Yeah, and shout out to Mark Sanchez, who is actually featured heavily in my most memorable football memories. That was a sentence. But in consecutive years with Chip Kelly, in his second season, God, I want to say it's 2014. Yeah, 2014. Yes, 2014. I'm going to say that a bunch of times. The starting quarterback was injured. Mark Sanchez started, and we destroyed the Dallas Cowboys on a run to turn around at the end of our season to go 10-6. Didn't make the playoffs, but it was really cool. It was fun to see Mark Sanchez come back from that butt fumble and not do that again. And then the following year, we played on Thanksgiving again and got absolutely manhandled by the Detroit Lions with Mark Sanchez at quarterback again for the injured Sam Bradford this time. That was miserable. But the overall thing that I think of every Thanksgiving is Calvin Johnson. Because the Lions basically always suck. They're not on primetime games very often, with the exception of Thanksgiving. They're always the 1:00 game, which is always the one that I definitely sit down and watch the entirety of because I hate the
Yeah.
Cowboys and I'll go either way on it.
Yeah.
But for a bunch of years growing up, I got to see Megatron play every single Thanksgiving and just destroy everyone in his way. I got to watch him just manhandle. God, what is his name? Eric Rowe from the Eagles defensive backfield back in 2014. Or 2015. That was miserable. But he does that every year. He would go into double coverage, triple coverage. Matt Stafford would say, screw it. Calvin Johnson's down there somewhere. And you know what? He still had the touchdown. Megatron is probably arguably the greatest football player from a pure talent perspective that I've ever witnessed. No, I did not watch Jerry Rice live. I didn't really watch a lot of the early Randy Moss. But Calvin Johnson was just uncoverable. It's a shame that he spent his career in Detroit, and I'm sure he feels the same way right now. But he's incredible, and I loved watching him, especially because in my first and longest running fantasy league, my family league, Calvin Johnson was my keeper for 5 or so years until he retired. So every Thanksgiving, I saw that side of the family. So we'd be sitting there, and I'd get to watch Calvin play for my fantasy team. So
and like turn around and be like,
and it was always fun. It wasn't normally fun after that, but he was always great.
Yeah. That's also why I love like Thanksgiving football, because it's like you don't usually get to hang. I mean, some people do, but you don't usually get to hang out with like most of your fantasy football league. And if you play in a family league, that's when you get to see everyone. Like that's when I'll get to see my family. And we'll talk trades, like we'll talk rosters. Sometimes if you have a few drinks, you'll be able to negotiate those trades. So it's a lot of fun. I love being able, and for a family that my family doesn't do a live draft because we live all over the country, but everyone comes back for Thanksgiving. So we don't get to do the live draft. So this is the real time that we get to sit and enjoy our league together. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't know if I would describe it as fun necessarily.
I mean, I used the word already, but it's chaotic.
Yeah, it's a good kind of torture. In our family league, if you're in last place, you have to serve drinks to everyone else at family functions.
Love that.
And you also have to sit on the floor on a mat with a little monkey on it. So that's good. Thankfully, my mom, not involved with the league. The first year when this came into play, I was in last place, and my mom offered to go find the mat in our house for me to sit on. It was very nice of her. It was awesome. And then I served drinks to everyone. So, yeah.
Does Pat play in this league?
He does. My dad does play in this league. He has more playoff wins than I do. I don't want to talk about it, in all honesty. It's very depressing. I really hate it. But moving on.
I'll make you less depressed. And I'll give you a chance to tell me something you're thankful for. We said earlier we're going to talk about two players that we've been really thankful for. From a fantasy perspective, from a football perspective, whatever route you chose to take, I would love to hear who you're grateful for. Tell me one, and then I'll go. We'll do a little ping pong thing.
So my first one is mainly due to fantasy, and that is the return of Cam Newton. And that is entirely because I love DJ Moore. And it is so nice to just see a guy that can actually get the ball to DJ Moore after watching Sam Darnold struggle to do it since like week 4 of the NFL season. It's just fun watching Cam Newton back in Carolina playing football. I know we talked a lot about that last week, but particularly for my fantasy teams where I have a lot of DJ Moore, I'm very thankful for the return of a mostly healthy Cam Newton.
Yeah, for me, one of my other ones is also, it's just so fun to watch him back. Like it's really cool. A little bit of nostalgia, but both of mine were kind of based off of fantasy. I'll talk about the second one first, which is Jalen Hurts. Even though you want to rip off my head every Sunday morning when I have to ask the question about Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts has been a superstar. And I think it's also just grateful that I get to watch that. Like, the evolution of people being like, this guy is not good in fantasy and football. And then he was the quarterback 1 through like over half the season. So I think that's been really fun to watch. And I have him on my home league, which is a lot of fun. And I get to play him every week, except for last week, unfortunately.
You get to play him most weeks. You could play him every week, but instead you keep questioning it.
I know. Listen, I had the right idea. It was the Saints run defense. I thought his rushing upside was going to be capped. I was wrong. I'll admit it. I'll hold myself accountable. I won't do it again. But I am very grateful for Jalen Hurts nonetheless.
You don't sit your studs. From a real football perspective.
I have Dak. It's not like I have like a horrible quarterback.
He looked great last week. Awesome. Awesome. Well, you can't say you're thankful for Jalen Hurts the week after you sit him.
Well, I am, because it's like now I'm more grateful. I am, because it's like I'm more grateful because I messed up and I shouldn't have, and I'm sorry, Jalen.
I wish someone would tell you you're in the good times before you're not in the good part. I really messed up that quote from The Office, but it's fine. I don't remember how it goes.
I wish somebody would have told me. Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
But so from a real football perspective, the guy that I think most thankful for this year is Devonta Smith, mainly because we have not had a really good wide receiver in Philadelphia since, we had 1 year of Alshon Jeffrey looking awesome. And before that, it was Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin. And that was it was years ago. So it's just so nice to see a wide receiver to be able to get open and help his quarterback. And after years of watching Greg Ward be our wide receiver 1, I'm just very thankful for Devonta Smith being who he is and being able to catch a football.
Yeah, I first will answer this question that Scott asked me. Scott asked who I'm going to play this week. I'm going to play Jalen Hurts this week because I don't really want to play a funky Thursday game. I'm not going to have the pain of benching Jalen Hurts again. And they're playing the Giants, whose defense has been unreliable and pretty shoddy. They have a couple of good weeks here and there, but I don't think they're going to be able to really stop Jalen Hurts. So I'm playing Jalen Hurts this week. But for me, another one of my things I'm thankful for this year, it's a combination of both football and fantasy, and it's Cooper Kupp. I've been really, really grateful for Cooper Kupp. You and I actually have him in our club championship league where we are co-managers. And he, and I will say it all the time, is one of my favorite players in the NFL. Just from a perspective of, I love watching him play. And it's been really fun to get to watch him rise to the level that I knew he always could. And it's been kind of fun to get a victory lap this thing a little bit, where I said that he had overall wide receiver one upside, and he was that taking Robert Woods was not the better option, where everyone told me I was wrong. So, and that was kind of like one of the first things I planted my flag on when I joined in the fantasy football community, and I ended up being right, which is really cool for me. And just getting to watch him play absolutely stellar football is really, really incredible. And the fantasy points help too.
Honestly, if that's your track record, I would quit now. You're a very strong 1-0.
Yeah.
You're right about Cooper Kupp. I would just, and that's not me like telling you to quit, but like if I were you, I think I would take that opportunity to retire.
I know.
Go out on top.
I know.
Yeah.
It's been a fun couple of months.
More than anything, we're thankful for football, and now we're gonna just kind of talk a little bit about the couple of games that we're gonna see this Thanksgiving Day, tomorrow, today. If you're listening on the podcast, whenever that comes out, Thursday, November 25th. So we got a couple of games to talk about. We have 3. Obviously the first one is featuring the Detroit Lions at 12:30, like every year, and they are playing their division rival, the Chicago Bears, without Justin Fields at quarterback and possibly without Jared Goff.
Just an absolute ball of a game. How fun. This is definitely the highlight of the entire NFL season.
Hey, I mean, David Blow, he surprised some folks. What was that, like 2 years ago, last year, whenever that was? So I don't know. Watch out, Tim Boyle. He had a whole 1 touchdown in his college career.
Yikes. Anyway, the Bears are 3-point favorites. They are coming off of a loss to the Ravens. The Lions are coming off of a loss to the Browns. The Lions have a Thanksgiving record of 37-44, where the Bears have a Thanksgiving record of 19-15. A fun fact is that the Lions have played 81 total NFL Thanksgiving Day games, and the Bears and Packers are tied for third at 36 games.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So do you have any predictions? At the end of this, I'm going to say, I want your turkey leg award guess, but give me some of your ideas for the game. What do you think is going to go on a little bit?
You know, I'm really hoping that if this is Matt Nagy's last game, sometimes I feel like you see coaches just kind of go for it and, throw caution to the wind. So I would love, and it's a shame that Justin Fields isn't going to be there, because I would actually love to see Matt Nagy just kind of say screw it with Justin Fields out there. But there likely won't be Allen Robinson. So it's going to be a very depleted Bears offense, and it's going to be a fairly depleted Lions offense. They don't have much of an offense.
Scott said Goff is 100% playing, by the way.
All right. Well, that's interesting. So apparently Goff is playing. I don't know how much that really, moves the needle at all. Maybe it would be great to see the Lions get their first win. I would love that on Thanksgiving. The TV coverage is always great. I think if they're going to get a win, then 2 guys need to ball out, and it's the guys that are really their most talented players on their offense, and it's not even close, and that's TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift. I think, judging on how depleted these offenses are as a whole, particularly the passing offenses, I think that this game is going to feature heavily the likes of David Montgomery and DeAndre Swift. I think that whichever team wants to win is going to use that guy and get a great game from that guy, respectively.
Yeah, I agree. I think DeAndre Swift may be the key to it. I'm trying to pull up where the Bears were. They've allowed 1,228 total rushing yards this season. I believe that sounds about right. Yeah. So their run defense is lower than middle of the pack. Like they're
Do you know what that ranking
low
is?
middle. I can 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They're, if you go from the bottom, they're 12. So
12th to last.
Yeah.
12th worst.
12th worst.
Got it.
Yes.
That just helps me more than total yards on the season because I have no clue what that
That's
means.
why I was trying to say it's like it's like lower middle tier. So I pulled that. I should have had it in the show sheet. But anyway, I think that their run defense is not great. I think this, with how good DeAndre Swift is, could be ran on by DeAndre Swift. So I think that's kind of going to be the bigger factor in their win, especially with their quarterback being Jared Goff coming off of an injury. So I think DeAndre Swift is kind of the key to unlocking this whole thing. But for what do you think the Bears need to do to win is what I want to know.
I think it's the exact same thing. I think they have to run the game plan through David Montgomery, and they have to hit Darnell Mooney when he's open deep. I think you really have to lean into the run game against a bad Lions defense. You saw the Eagles do it against the Lions a couple weeks ago where they racked up a ton of yards. They do not have a good, strong defense, especially against the run.
They have the second worst run defense.
There you go. So David Montgomery needs to have a big game, and when he's open, Andy Dalton needs to be able to hit the deep ball to Darnell Mooney, who is an absolute speedster. He's always open deep. Still developing overall as a wide receiver, but if they can just use that to complement the run game and score early and fast, then I think that they're set.
I agree. I think David Montgomery is kind of the key. Any last words before I ask for your turkey leg award?
No, but I am going to give I'm just going to take that as you asking me, and I'm going to give it to David Montgomery. I think he's going to have a big game. He's still kind of getting his feet back from the injury a little bit, but I think against a great matchup on Thanksgiving, I think that he's going to feast, pun intended.
Yeah, I think that the Lions might squeak away with their first win. I think it's going to be DeAndre Swift, the turkey leg award winner.
I have no
Hopefully,
issues.
I would love for them to win on Thanksgiving.
It would be really nice. Dan Campbell, I would love to see him get emotional.
Oh my goodness, we've got to see the bat cry. I want to see the good cry. I want to see a Dan Campbell happy cry so bad.
Oh, you know that he's breaking down on that podium. Absolutely,
I know.
There's no chance he's not. So
no, and I love him. His heart is so in this, and like he deserves for this team to win at least one game this season.
I agree.
I want, especially on Thanksgiving, where he can get up there and be like, "I'm so grateful." I would love it.
Now you're crying.
Anyway, we're gonna move on to Raiders Cowboys, which is the midday game at 4:30. Dallas is favored by 7.5 points. Every single team playing on Thanksgiving is coming off of a loss. So anyway, the Raiders are coming off of a loss to the Bengals, and the Cowboys are coming off of a loss to the Chiefs. And the Cowboys' Thanksgiving record is 31-21.
Yeah, I think this is setting up for a pretty big upset in the Raiders' favor. Dallas has not looked good lately, and they also have a very long. In recent history, they have a bad history of not covering the spread on their Thanksgiving. Good Lord, on their Thanksgiving Day games. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I read it earlier, but I believe it's all but like once in the past like 7 or 8 years that they have not covered the spread on Thanksgiving. So not only do I not think they're going to cover the spread, I also just think that the Raiders are going to win outright. The Cowboys are hopeful that CeeDee Lamb will be able to play after suffering a concussion. That seems really hopeful to me, but they're talking it up. I guess there's a possibility. But Amari Cooper will be out, so no revenge game narrative for him. I don't. Dak Prescott has not looked good. Zeke is going to be hobbled most likely. And I think if they can't fully rely on the run game to help Dak, I don't think that he can do enough to win this game. I'm going to take it that she cannot hear me because she left the stream. So now it's just my face really large, unless you're listening to podcasts in which nothing has changed. But the Raiders are coming off a loss to the Bengals, and the Cowboys are coming off a rough primetime loss to the Chiefs in what a lot of people thought would be a much closer game than it really ended up being. So do you have any thoughts on this matchup?
I think for me, I just think that the Cowboys look so like discombobulated lately, and I really don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the issue of like the overall health of the team, because at week after week their key like game changers are in and out, and that's affecting them. Like 1 week it's Zeke, 1 week it's Dak, 1 week it's Cooper, 1 week it, so I don't know if that's creating this kind of overall very discombobulated look for this team. If it is, it's not going to get better because people are in and out still. So it's not like this team has gotten healthy. So if that's the issue, then it's still going to progress. And if the issue is just that this team is, like looked good at the beginning of the season and they were kind of faking us all out, then that's going to happen again too. So I think the two options that kind of explain why the Cowboys are not doing great are going to happen either way. I know the Raiders are kind of due for one. The Raiders game with the Chiefs was like they're always like 1 or 2 plays away. And I know that's most of football, but it's like things that are just like a little bit unlucky keep happening to the Raiders. And I don't mean like the coaching and the stuff like that, but like just a drop pass here or there
On the field.
or a bad penalty. So I do think that the Raiders are going to win this game, and I'm hopeful that they do. I think it also makes for more interesting football. It opens up the NFC East for other people. It creates a really interesting playoff run in the NFC East, playoff dynamic for the NFC East. And I think it would just be good to get the Raiders back to what they were at the beginning of the season. I know you and I played contender or pretender with them, but I kind of want to get back to that. They at least looked like they were contenders. They might have been pretenders, but I want to see the Raiders get back there. And I think one of the keys for this game is actually getting Darren Waller involved, which has been a little bit of a struggle as of late. But getting Darren Waller involved is going to be crucial. So, especially with a receiving core that's not great. And I know one of the reasons is that every defense has had Darren Waller in double coverage for the most part. But I'm curious to see how the Cowboys defense decides to cover, if they're going to run double coverage on Darren Waller or not. But if they are, Trayvon Diggs would probably be covering, I'm assuming, in which case he's great at interceptions, but I don't think he's like an absolutely stellar corner. So it would be a pretty interesting matchup, I think.
Yeah, I think one thing that you mentioned is pretty big and could have a lot of repercussions for the rest of the season, which is if they lose, I mean, the Eagles are only going to be 2 wins and 2 losses, there'll be 2 games back out of the NFC, out of the top of the NFC East, obviously, with their buys still to come. And the Eagles also have the easiest rest of season schedule by adjusted.
Oh, it's like
metric.
By far.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Giants twice, the Washington football team twice, the Jets once, a bye week, and then week 18 against the Cowboys. I forget if that game is at home or if it's away. But if the Cowboys continue on this trend and the Eagles are on a 2-game winning streak with that schedule, obviously they're division games, anything can happen. But I think there's slightly more of a chance that we might see an actual NFC East showdown in week 18 in something that I don't think anyone would have said they expected a few weeks ago. So it'll be really interesting. And I think this game is a pretty big turning point for the Cowboys and whether or not they're able to get back on track.
It is a home game for Philly. It's Dallas at Philly.
Oh, that atmosphere. If that's to make the playoffs, that will be that is something. I love it. Who is your turkey leg?
We can go.
I don't know if I want to go. That's scary. I don't know if I can handle the emotional fallout if I'm at that game and we lose. That's tough. But who is your turkey leg award prediction winner prediction?
This one's a little bit tough because I do think the Raiders are going to win. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Darren Waller. I think he's due for a breakout game pretty soon. The Cowboys' run defense is pretty good. I think that they're going to kind of shut down Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake. So I'm going to go with Darren Waller. I would like to think Derek Carr, but I'm not. Those are the two I'm between, but I'm going to lean towards Darren Waller.
And I am going to go with Josh Jacobs, who historically has performed far better in games that they win. For obvious reasons, it makes sense. He's running the ball. But I think that there is a decent chance after a rough stretch from him that he could have a big impact on this game. And honestly, if you get up early, the best strategy is to keep it away from Dak Prescott. So I think the Raiders are going to win. And because of that, I believe that Josh Jacobs will have a pretty good game on Thanksgiving and might be able to walk away with a few touchdowns. And that brings us to our final game, which is at 8:20 on Thursday, Thanksgiving, and it is the Bills versus the Saints. The Bills are 6-point favorites, and the Saints are without what seems like every piece of their offense.
Yeah, they are coming off of a loss, a really strange loss, which was against the Colts, right? I'm right there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Jonathan Taylor had 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, okay, that's why, yeah. So they're coming off of a loss to the Colts. The Saints are coming off of a loss to the Eagles. I didn't have the stats for how many Thanksgiving games they've won or lost because they're not the key Thanksgiving teams. But man, did Buffalo look really, really bad last week. Like, really bad. Which is, I don't know. Like, I don't even know how to preview this one because I don't know if it was a fluke, but it like looked so bad that it didn't feel like it was a fluke, you know?
I mean, this team has been struggling as of late. I'm still surprised that
Yeah.
Josh Allen is one of the favorite, at least last week when we talked about it, for MVP or whether that was 2 weeks ago. I don't know. But the Bills
It was last week.
Went from being the easy 1 seed with a pretty easy lead on the AFC East to now I'm not even sure they'll win it with the run that the Patriots are on right now. The Bills need this game to get back in their groove because over the last 5 weeks they've won 2 games and they were against the Dolphins and the Jets. They lost to the Jaguars, the Titans, and the Colts, and they've given up a lot of points in those games. With the exception of the Jaguars, who only scored 9 points. But
I think that's the big thing, right? It's like, it's not just that they're like barely losing on a field goal from like 1 turnover or something like that. Like, they're losing by a huge margin, which is, I think, an indicator that this team is catfishing us and they're really not that good right now.
I think right now they're not that good.
No.
Josh Allen is an elite talent, but it seems like defenses have understood how to slow down the offense enough that they can win games against them. I mean, the running game is basically non-existent as it was last year. And without that complement,
Diggs is not performing well.
Yeah, I mean, the whole offense has been slowed down almost to a halt over the past month. And I think this is going to be a really good opportunity for the Bills to get back on track because on the other side of the ball, I mean, the Saints are without their starting quarterback and Jameis Winston. They're without their top running back, possibly their top 2 running backs. They're without Adam Troutman, who was just starting to break out. They're obviously without Michael Thomas. I don't know the status of their tackles who did not play last week, both of their starting tackles. And the Saints are also coming off a very just kind of heartbreaking loss against a team that was not viewed as very good in the Eagles, and the Saints just got manhandled. I mean, that's not a fun way to lose a football game when the other team just runs all over your elite running defense. But then again, the same thing just happened to the Bills. So
yeah, I think this one's going to be interesting, but I genuinely have no idea what's going to happen. Like, the other ones, I have a good prediction. This one is, I mean, I would love to say that the Bills are going to win, and I can't confidently say that right now. And the Bills receiving game has to be top tier because the Saints run defense is the second best run defense in the league. So even though the Bills run game has kind of, like you said, been a little bit non-existent, the run game has to be used to slow down the game and manage game clock and everything like that. And I don't know that the Bills are going to be able to do that with a kind of subpar running back room right now against the second best run defense in the league.
Yeah, and by the way, I kind of mentioned it earlier, and I wasn't entirely right. The Bills are actually the 7th seed right now. So if the playoffs started today, they would be the last seed in the AFC, and that's a couple weeks removed from being the 1 or the 2 seed. So yeah, I'm gonna pick the Bills to win this game. I don't know if they'll cover the spread. I think I hope for their sake they do, but this feels like the kind of game where Josh Allen is just going to go out and he is going to put the team on his back and just bully the Saints into a win. I think he's probably going to get a rushing touchdown or 2. He's going to make some highlight plays, and he's just going to. He's my turkey leg award winner guy.
Mine too.
And I think that if the Bills want to win this game, I think that they really just need to ride Josh Allen to that win. They need to ride the stallion.
He is also my turkey leg award winner guy. So
you copied me.
I can't. Yeah, I did. It was funny. But that about wraps us up. I think we're kind of due we're not due. We've had enough interesting football to last us a lifetime. But I think this Thanksgiving games are kind of going to be pretty interesting for the past few years. I think it's kind of anyone's game in all of these games. Like any one of these 6 teams could go out there and win reasonably. And so even though they don't look like the best matchups, I think it should be that we're in for some really fun football, hopefully.
Well, I just want to say that Kyle Larson picked me as his turkey leg award winner guy. So that's all I need. I'm thankful for Kyle this Thanksgiving. Yeah, I think that more or less brings us to the end of this show. Obviously, everyone has to go out and get drunk in their hometown bar with all of their high school friends. That's what Thanksgiving Eve is about. If you're doing that, go out and be safe, call an Uber, do that stuff, be a good person, be considerate of others. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. And sorry for all the technical difficulties tonight. It was a little more than we are used to, but hopefully you guys were still able to enjoy the show. Yeah,
I'm back in my family home, so there's a lot of us here. I'm pretty sure there's like 8 of us in the house right now, so it's we have a lot of people on the Wi-Fi, so I apologize about that. And I just want to say the day before Thanksgiving that I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving, a very happy Thanksgiving Eve. And just that I am incredibly thankful for this platform, for this podcast. I'm incredibly thankful for you, Dunks. Doing this has changed my life for the better and has made for very fun times. And this podcast is the highlight of my week every week. So I'm incredibly thankful for hosting the show, for having you host it with me. And I am incredibly thankful for all of you that listen. And if you want, you can find us on wherever you listen to your podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube. You can watch video playback. We're live Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but our podcasts are posted to streaming platforms Thursday morning at, I believe, 6 a.m. So you can listen on to your way to work or tomorrow on your way to your aunt's house. But we hope to have you all back here next week. I hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and thank you for joining us today.
And now I have to say that I am, of course, thankful for Ashley. Otherwise, I would look like a horrible person. So she really just kind of set me up well for that one. But happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week. Best of luck on this holiday.
Bye, guys.